What is up world, Matty Beebs here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's very good to see all you familiar faces. I hope you guys are having a great day or night, whatever time you're watching this. This week's vlog, I wanted to talk to you guys about why my cinematography sucked. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I want to share with you guys how my cinematography has grown and hopefully how I have gotten better as a cinematographer and as a filmmaker. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at an old short film that I filmed back in college at CSUN. I was lucky enough to be the cinematographer and I had a great friend who directed this short film. It's called The Man in the Room. It was a sci-fi short film, so it was pretty cool. It was a very interesting story, but I would love to share with you guys a few scenes from that short film and talk to you guys why I really think that it sucked or why I think that it could be better and how you guys can learn and improve so that your cinematography is way better than what mine was. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get into this week's vlog in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so let's jump into the first scene, the opening shot, and wow, I really do not like this shot. I remember it was a bright and sunny day. We were filming at about noon. It looks like the sun is right overhead. If you can see the guy in this shot, he has huge shadows underneath his eyes. It's very unattractive. And even if you take a look at our actress, she is squinting, basically saying, Matt, your cinematography is terrible. Why would you put us directly underneath the sun with no diffusion? So when you guys are in the situation and you're filming in the daytime and it's noon or it's any time during the day, do not be afraid to diffuse the light. Put a sheet over your talent, put a half grid over your talent, whatever it may be, just diffuse the light, make it soft, and then you can bring in some harder light to emphasize certain areas or certain faces within the frame, okay? So that is one thing that you always want to do, diffuse your light, and then you can go from there. Oof, I already don't like this. Let's move on to the next one. We have this scene here. It's basically an insert of the couple's hands passing through one another as if they were being pulled apart. Now for me, I do not like this shot at all. It's very high key, hard light, meaning there's no diffusion. Yet again, this is a close-up. Matt, why would you not put a diffusion over their hands? I don't know what I was thinking. But I have learned my lesson. The next time I film during the day, I will put a diffusion grid over my talent. Therefore, when I film it, it's not gonna be hard direct light. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, they're terrible, ugly vignettes on every 4 corners of the screen. Now that's from an ND filter. Most of you have heard of ND filters. If you have not, very quickly, a ND filter cuts down the light without changing the color of your footage. And it's really ugly. I cannot believe this exists, but I'm doing this all for you guys so that you don't have to suffer as a cinematographer, as a director, as a filmmaker to have ugly shots like these. So let's keep it moving. Let's go into the next one. This scene takes place on a hill, so it is off balance. It feels a little off. Something about it just feels not comfortable, which is part of the scene. It's all part of the narrative, right? Sometimes you want to pick these scenes and the way that you block them as a director, as a cinematographer, because of the narrative, because the story calls for it. So I think the composition is pretty good. Maybe I would change a few things, but overall the composition, it works. So before I ask you guys, what do you think is wrong with this picture? I see one huge thing that is screaming terrible, ugly, Matt, you should probably not be a cinematographer. And if you're anyone like me, you were probably seeing, noticing, and thinking that these skin tones were blown out. Now you can see our actor, the guy on the floor, his shirt is well exposed, right? It's not blown out, the color is still there. Even his jeans look really nice because it's a darker blue. So it's harder to blow out the blue in his pants, and even his boots are all exposed properly. But as you can see his hand, he's reaching out to the actress. His hand is gone, it's blown out, it's ugly. It doesn't look good at all. The skin tone is really ugly, but it's because I didn't properly expose this image. Now, because I didn't expose for the skin tones, which all cinematographers do, that is what you should be exposing for. Because if you overexpose or underexpose the skin tones, what's the point, right? So look at the skin tones, even on our actress, her skin tones, and even her dress, her white dress, a cinematographer's nightmare. It's all blown out. Now, I did not expose for the skin tones, nor did I even consider exposing for her white dress. You really need to be careful with white clothing and lighter skin tones underneath the sun. So this picture would have looked so much better if I would have exposed for the skin tones and not for the entire surroundings. And by the way, I do have those vignettes still there in all 4 corners. Ugh. Cool. Now for this particular shot, I thought it was really neat. I was racking focus with my 50mm. I was rack focusing from the purple card to the actor's face. I thought it was a cool scene. Really awesome when you rack focus, because what you're essentially doing is you're taking the audience's eyes, attention from one object to another. Now you're literally moving someone's eye from one area of the frame to the next. It's pretty cool when you really think about it, I promise. Really not much that I can say is wrong with this compositional wise. One area of this frame I'm noticing could be worked on is the skin tones again. I did not expose for my actor, for my talent's skin tones. I don't know why I didn't do that. I don't know why it took me so long to understand when you're exposing, you expose for the skin tones. Now again, this is going to be a huge thing whenever you're filming any scene, no matter what it is. If you have humans in it, expose for their skin tones. You don't want to blow out their skin tones. I promise you, if you have all of the skin tones properly exposed, everything else will look pretty dang good. And if it doesn't, try to control areas where you think you need to control them. But for the most part, you'll want to always expose for the skin tones. Now, this is a good shot. Everything is properly exposed. The framing is pretty decent. Ironically, I'm not overexposing or underexposing any areas of this frame. Also, there are no vignettes on this. Why? Because we're in the shade. We're no longer in the sun. I probably wasn't using my ND filter. All right, so we are on our wide shot. We have established where we are. We're in a theater, it looks like. I do see a light that is overhead above our talent and the table that they are sitting at, which means I can definitely use that when we come in closer for our close-up. So let's move in a little bit tighter and see just how I handled that overhead light and what I did to shape that light. And if you didn't notice, there's a person in the second row watching the scene unfold. He's supposed to be our bad guy. We'll get to him soon.
I'm glad you arrived in a timely fashion.
All right, so we see our first medium shot on our talent. We notice that, again, the top light is pretty heavy on this guy. Now, I know this was a narrative decision to leave that overhead light and not touch it, but me as a cinematographer, I should know how to make that light look really pretty. You really never want to leave a fully exposed light on your talent, especially when it's a top-down light. You're gonna create these ugly shadows that sometimes are called raccoon shadows, whatever have you. But I know for some of you, you're thinking, but narratively it works, and you're right, it does work. But there's a better way to do it. If you diffuse the light overhead, you have such hard lines and shadows. You don't want to have your characters, even if he's a bad guy, you don't want him to look ugly, and you don't want the lighting to look really hard and harsh on him. Make it pretty and harsh, right? So soften that light, bring in a nice edge light, give him some definition on something. Do everything you can to light your villains properly, but at the same time, you want to make it look good. You can have hard shadows underneath their eyes, that's okay, I'm not saying not to, but do it in an elegant way. Make sure that light is soft, and bring in a backlight or even put in an eye light underneath his eyes to show that he really is a bad guy. Don't be lazy and don't be a bad cinematographer like I was. Soften the light, bring in a bottom eye light, or just have a nice edge light. That way your character reads, this guy's pretty tough. He has a nice defined edge line, like he has a defined history. Everything behind him has brought him to this moment. Don't be afraid to soften your light. I promise you it'll look way more cinematic and it'll look more professional, like you know what you're doing. Let's move on to the next one. Cut away to this gentleman in the crowd. Again, he's in the second row, and he has a nice back edge light, which actually looks pretty cool. I had the opportunity to reshoot this scene differently. I would absolutely introduce some negative fill. Now, what is negative fill, you're probably asking? Negative fill is just duvetine. It's just a black, dark sheet that does not reflect any light, it actually makes subjects darker. So I would have brought the duvetine to the left of our character, putting him more in shadow and leaving that edge light be the only source of light that touches him. I wouldn't want any more return light coming in from anywhere else spilling over him. I would love to just have that hard edge light. Cool, so moving into our medium wide shot, we have both of our characters in the frame. This can be called a two shot. The overhead light is still present. For your wide shots, the lighting does not have to be perfect. You don't have to have the soft and beautiful light that you want when you move in closer. It's okay to not have your lights matching exactly. You just want to have a nice reference so that when we move in closer, the lighting is still coming from the same direction that we saw in our wide shot. It's just been finessed a little bit.
What man? Is he talking about the man in the photos?
Do not.
So now we're in a close-up of our main character. I'm noticing there is kind of a lot of headroom. There's no backlight, it's just pure blackness behind him. If you notice, the lighting on our character is very soft, right? If you even look in his eyes, you can see the highlight. And I remember on that day we used an RA650 to light him, and I was shooting through, I think, like a 4x4 diffusion grid. It softened the light, it made it a lot more cinematic, which is probably why I think this is my favorite still from this entire short film. The lighting is just really soft. It doesn't call to your attention. It doesn't distract you from the narrative. It's just nice, soft lighting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's vlog. I hope you learned something. And also, if you like this video, you know what to do. Go ahead and do a super jump on the like button down below. Don't forget to get subscribed to the YouTube channel. Every Wednesday is a brand new vlog, whether we're talking about cinematography, whether I'm taking you guys on an adventure, whatever it may be, there will be some content for you every Wednesday. Again, I'm Matty Beeves, the cinematographer. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in 7 days. Peace!
No.